So it's officially been a year since Rolling Stone released its exposé on the events surrounding Jojo Siwa's reality television show, Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution. Now this article made absolute waves after the article covered a range of serious allegations surrounding the mistreatment of the child stars on Siwa's show, and a particular disturbing example from this article that caught a lot of people's attention was when 14-year-old star Leah Sanderson, just weeks after undergoing spinal surgery, was quote-unquote encouraged to attend and perform in a video shoot, despite the Siwas being in full acknowledgement that only a few days before surgery, whilst doing these rehearsals, the same individual started to bleed from their belly button, and rather than pause the rehearsal, she was simply told to put a maxi pad on it and continue. The expose then goes into pretty excruciating detail about the mistreatment of the young performers on the show, and it just in general is yet again another instance of child stars being exploited and taken advantage of in an industry which just progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And in the wake of such massive controversy, you would generally expect there to be some form of consequence or repercussion. But no, if anything, there's been the absolute opposite of that. Because as you and I now know, Jojo Siwa for the last year has pretty much been what could be described as an internet phenomenon. She has been absolutely everywhere, whether it's her new album, her new songs, Karma, her getting involved in crazy shenanigans at Disneyland. Jojo Siwa has gone viral for many reasons that aren't to do with this article. And with it being a year on officially since that article and expose came out, and there really being no consequences ever since then, in today's video what I wanted to do is reflect on that article, possibly even go through it in detail if you guys didn't know about it, but I also wanted to mainly go through some recent updates surrounding Jojo, because yes, she's once again been going on multiple podcasts where she speaks about the child entertainment industry, but also she's back collaborating with a certain YouTube villain known as Colleen Ballinger. Yes, it's actually kind of getting quite ridiculous at this point. The individual that was exposed for mistreatment of child stars is now hanging out with this individual, not just hanging out, but sharing a platform with that individual, exposing her young audience to Colleen Ballinger. There is a lot that I want to get through today, and it does start us off with Jojo Siwa's PSA to future child stars, which yes, comes from a podcast which is actually hosted by another former child star in Josh Peck. Now in this podcast, Jojo and Josh, they speak about a multitude of things. They speak about their careers, what Jojo's been up to, her music career, and just in general, honestly, the listen isn't really that bad. Like, I've sat through the entire thing, and honestly, it's a pretty pleasant listen if you don't know anything about the controversy. But given that's why we are here today, yes, when I first saw the headline of Jojo Siwa's PSA to child stars, I instantly thought to myself, oh, well, given it's a year on since her controversy involving the severe, and I should say severe mistreatment of child stars, I thought to myself, maybe Jojo's going to talk about it, because up until this point, Jojo herself has actually not referred to any of the scandal whatsoever. It's just been occasional rebuttals and responses from her lawyers. So maybe in this podcast clip where she warns people about this industry, she's gonna know. No, you know that she's not going to do that. You know, I know that Jojo Siwa is never, ever, ever going to address this controversy, because obviously it would look very, very bad for her. And the clip itself actually starts off in a pretty hilarious way when you add in all of the context from that article from a year ago, because Josh starts it off being like, hey, is there any advice you'd give to child stars out there right now? Are there any warnings that you'd give? And in my mind, it's just like, yeah, the warning to stay away from Jojo Siwa.
Is there ever things that you see of like the next gen of like kid stars where you're just like, be careful.
Be careful of Jojo Siwa and incredibly predatory shows where they exploit you for everything that you possibly have, because you could end up in a situation where your mother is so short on funds due to the lack of payment from the show that you're featuring on that she has to scrub the toilets in Jojo Siwa's home for $20 an hour. This is a legitimate real thing that happened, and I'm still confused to this day why none of the media companies out there want to talk about these things. No one wants to talk about the scrub toilets in Jojo Siwa's house because of low payments. Nobody wants to talk about the severe repercussions of that show. And in particular, Josh and Jojo don't really want to talk about it either. But yeah, Jojo answers Josh's question immediately by stating that she actually does know a lot of child stars and that, a lot of kids out there either have the it factor or they don't have the it factor. And Jojo does offer her very kind advice to the individuals that supposedly don't have the it factor.
All of those kids, it's like anytime I've worked with them, I've been like, yes, like you got it. Like you are not only so entertaining and so likable, but you also have it. Like whatever said it is, whether that be the passion behind it, whether that be the supportive family, like whatever the concoction is to make it work, you have it. And then I've been around some other kids where I'm like, stop working immediately, go to school, like find a firefighter academy.
Totally a lovely thing to say to an individual, particularly a young individual that wants to, grow up in the same industry. Can you imagine that you've looked up to this individual for their whole lives? You're not really doing the best of jobs and you're looking for some advice and it's just stop. Just stop. Now, I know, this is obviously being played for comedic effect here. But again, when you kind of tie in the context of that article from a year ago and place it into how Jojo's acting here, things do kind of add up. In the article, it speaks about the toxic environment that the students were in, where, a lot of people were at constant tension, where they really felt like they couldn't be themselves and they really felt that at any possible moment they could, lose this opportunity. And I feel like what Jojo is saying here is another example of that. And look, I get it. Hollywood is an industry where they need to make money. Obviously, it's not a charity. They're there to make money. But at the end of the day, I feel like the mentality that Jojo is putting across here isn't exactly a healthy one that I think children should have to go through. And Jojo's counter argument to a lot of these types of claims has always been, oh, well, I went through that and look at me now. I'm a rich multimillionaire who's got a mansion and loads of funny, wacky cars. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but 9 times out of 10, the person in the shoes that you were once in is actually not going to make it, and they will deal with a lot of lasting effects, such as an example of so many Dance Mum stars that have come out speaking about their negative experiences with the show, in which the same stars that Jojo has seemingly mocked as well. At every opportunity Jojo has had, it seems that she really doesn't have any care for her former co-stars that either didn't make it or have faced a lot of serious long-lasting effects from the shows that they featured on. And just to see her then being like, oh, if you don't got it, then just quit, leave. I don't know, just really rubs me the wrong way. And at first I kind of thought that maybe I'm reaching here, but when you add in all of the context of the articles that I've gone through over the last year, it just makes me see this and think, wow, you really aren't exactly this amazing, wonderful person that's been painted out to be this golden girl that could never do anything wrong. And one thing that I'm really wondering as well is what actually constitutes as an it factor. Like, what does she mean when she says this?
All of those kids, it's like anytime I've worked with them, I've been like, yes, like you got it. Like you are not only so entertaining and so likable, but you also have it.
Maybe she means talent, maybe she means they're really good at dancing, or maybe she means that they'll be absolutely fine working 9 hours a day and avoiding school, breaking California labor laws. Because yes, that is something that took place on Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution, and if any parent ever complained about it, well, seemingly that was an issue. And as I said earlier, parents were worried that their kids will lose the opportunity and they would be fired from this role if they said or did anything wrong. What could possibly be wrong? Complaining that you're missing your vital school learning lessons? Complaining that you're working 9-hour days as a 10 to 16-year-old child? Because to me, based on everything that we've gone through over the last year, it feels like the it factor is just bowing down to Jojo and Jesselyn Siwa and doing everything that they say without any form of confrontation whatsoever. Even when it comes to rehearsal schedules for charity dance shows that Jojo is hosting, I found this screenshot which shows that the kids will be working multiple hours every single day, and in the final 2 days after 3 grueling days, it's just a straight out work all day and have a performance back to back on both days. And look, I get it, working hard and working a lot is something that Hollywood obviously wants. It wants these child stars that will do these ridiculous hours every single day, and it's normalized because they may get paid at the end of it, but at the end of the day, I just don't think that these are very healthy things that we should, participate in. I don't think that these are things that should be normalized. But sadly, because of people like Jojo and speaking about having the it factor, these things are now normalized, where if you want to be in that industry, you kind of expect to pretty much be physically, taken advantage of at every opportunity. Because, you might get Instagram followers, you might get TikTok followers. That and maybe a few $1 million in 20 years' time is your payment for ruining your childhood and getting long-lasting mental health-related issues.
Hello, I like money.
But don't worry, they've got the it factor.
Stop working immediately, go to school, like find a firefighter academy, like anything but this. And
get out.
That's a very hard thing because like you can't tell the parent that, right? You can't, but you just have to trust that like the world is gonna world and like.
I mean, yeah, you can't tell the parent that, because if their parent has brought their kid to this thing where they're learning how to, achieve their dreams, I don't think it's necessarily a good form of teaching to be like, oh, you're not really doing what I like, that means you should go and become a firefighter or go get a regular 9-to-5 job. I don't necessarily believe that that is the best advice to be bestowing onto young children, because remember, this is what Jojo is talking about here. She is speaking about child stars, and I think to just crush someone's dreams from a very young age, saying, oh, you don't have the it factor, you can't do this, I don't know, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But don't worry, because Jojo also then claims to be offering a helping hand to these young child stars.
I always make it very clear to any kid that I ever work with, like, look, if you ever need a helping hand out, I got you.
I mean, realistically, I don't think this is true whatsoever, and the Leah Sanderson situation, in my opinion, really only solidifies that. And every example other than that as well, it seems that Jojo isn't really willing to offer a helping hand. For example, she has spoken against multiple co-stars in the past that have also spoken against Abby Lee Miller. When someone has spoken up about the horrible treatment that Abby gave to her former child stars on shows like Dance Moms, Jojo Siwa has always come out and been like, oh, she's actually great. I really like her and I'm still friends with her. And she's even gone on to shade a lot of people that have spoken against Abby Lee Miller in the past. And it's like, if you're truly willing to help people out of the industry, why are you still shaming people that got out of that Dance Mum circle? Why were you never attentive to the people that actually had issues in the industry whilst they were still in it? And every single opportunity that Jojo's had, she's never helped anyone out of it. She's never helped them in general. She's never offering a true helping hand, in my opinion. Defending people like Abby Lee Miller is not helping in any instance. And again, it just kind of feels that at every opportunity Jojo is not willing to learn or change or adapt to the times. It just feels that, no matter what, she's always going to defend her friends, but when she can make herself look great, she'll be like, oh yeah, I will offer you a helping hand. But the reality is when push comes to shove and when it's a very difficult situation, Jojo will either remain silent or just openly mock you. Like, listen to some of these quotes she's made about Abby Lee Miller. On April 10th episode of Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast, Siwa20 looked back at her time in the competitive Lifetime reality show and claimed that she never let Abby Lee Miller's comments get under her skin because she always knew what she was getting herself into. I saw what she was like on TV, and I somehow as a kid could always see the bigger picture, she explained. The Karma singer went on to share how her mother Jocelyn Siwa would always be and fight all day on set when she would rank at the bottom of the pyramid despite ranking last amongst her co-stars. Siwa knew that even at a young age there are advantages to placing last. And I was like, no mum, because the person at the top of the pyramid gets congratulations, you're at the top, but the person at the bottom gets the whole storyline of the show. And she was like, how do you know that? I'd be like, it literally doesn't matter, like we are making a TV show, and so I always kind of realized that. And then she also goes on to describe Abby Lee Miller's teaching as tough love. And bearing in mind the type of tough love that she's referring to led to titles like this: Dance Mom's Worst Meltdowns Mega Compilation Part 1, and then you can see the thumbnail is children crying. And then there's another one here, and there's another one here. In every single thumbnail, it is children crying. And bearing in mind this is reality television, so a lot of this is absolutely real. And from a lot of headlines that have come out since these shows ended, a lot of people have spoke about the serious trauma that they gained from shows like Dance Moms. And Jojo has described these things as tough love and defended these things because, oh, it's all Hollywood, it's all television. Is that the it factor? You know, defending terrible behavior because it eventually got you rich and famous? To me, I just can't look past any of this. So when I hear her saying, oh, I offered a helping hand to my co-stars or to the people that I'm working with, I realistically can't take that seriously, given the amount of time she swatted away the hands of the people that actually criticize the reason that she is in the position that Jojo now is. And at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of the reason that Jojo defends so many people like Abby Lee Miller is down to the fact that, well, she feels guilty about the fact that her fame and fortune came from a very negative environment and this thing that has a very negative perception surrounding it in 2025. I think Jojo now sees that and almost wants to convince the world that, hey, it wasn't really that bad. This was just a show and we were here to put on an act and get famous. But the reality is this was what that was. These children crying and being devastated every single day. It was real and it wasn't tough love that Jojo likes to keep calling it. And if Jojo truly was offering people helping hands and helping hands out of the industry, then headlines like this would not exist. Leah Sanderson's story would not exist because Jojo would realize how hard this industry is and she would take care of the people around her like she claims to do consistently. But these headlines do exist. And Leah Sanderson, the person who that whole article is about, is still being ignored to this day. She is still dealing with the after effects of that show, and a lot of people out there, as I said, are still dealing with the effects of shows like Dance Moms. Jojo doesn't care, and it does get a little bit irritating when you keep on hearing her be like, oh, well, I'm so great, you know, I offer helping hands to everyone, but it's like, mate, the articles are there, these things exist, we've seen what you defend, like, you can't lie to us. But when you move further into this podcast, Jojo and Josh speak about a lot of issues, and one particular thing that really did catch my attention was when Jojo starts to speak about how she believes that she's actually basically saved the lives of other individuals out there. And I'm just going to play this for full context so you can truly understand what she's talking about, because I don't know if this is a case of her just being incredibly delusional, but when I first heard it, I was like, and even Josh himself also genuinely seemed a bit, you know, taken aback by what Jojo had to say. So, yeah, just take a listen to this.
I think that, like, say Emily, right, Emily's my imaginary friend from when I was a kid, so I always use her name. She doesn't care.
Is she here with us now?
Oh, she's always with me. She's always here. Hey, Emily, we love you.
Get her a seat. Olivia? No, I'm kidding.
Come on. She's like tucked in.
Very
right
rude of us.
But yeah, so say Emily, right, is bullying Susie at school. I don't know if Susie can handle it, right? I don't know if Susie's going to be able to take that mentally, but
Susie's not real too.
Susie's not
Sorry,
real.
I'm trying to keep
Susie's
track.
not real.
Okay.
No, fictional people.
Gotcha.
But if Emily then all of a sudden is having more fun bullying me on the internet, have at it, girl. Like, I know I'm okay. And so in a weird way, I kind of look at it as if, like, I'm saving Susie's life.
Now, I have a lot of issues with this statement, and I understand that it's a pretty ridiculous thing that she's just stating on a podcast, and maybe she's just saying it to be clipped up, but the whole point of this podcast is Jojo speaking about how she's just great at marketing and getting attention, and I don't really think she would say that in the same podcast as where she's also trying to clip farm. So yeah, the subject of Jojo Siwa supposedly saving people's lives because she's distracting school bullies from bullying people in their school because they're commenting on Jojo Siwa's TikTok profile. The statement, it sounds a bit wild because it also does, you know, kind of contextualize bullies as all murderers. And look, I'm not defending bullies. I think a lot of us, including myself, yes, shockingly enough, the YouTuber has been bullied before, but I think we've all been bullied at one point in our lives, and I wouldn't go as far to say as our former school bullies were murderers. And stating what she's stating here, Jojo seems to believe that, I don't know, maybe these school bullies are murderers. Now, maybe she could also be meaning that, you know, it could lead to more tragic things of such as it could put a bullied person into such a severe mental health related situation, and that could lead to some dark places. And I get that. That's a real thing that happens. But I don't know if I'm being mean here, but I don't think Jojo Siwa necessarily understands how school works. And that mainly probably comes down to the fact that, yes, Jojo Siwa was homeschooled. And that's, you know, fine and all. A lot of Hollywood stars are. But I think it really does show here. Because I know for sure that a bully doesn't stop bullying someone because they can comment mean things on Jojo Siwa's TikTok page. I know it sounds like a really cool thing that, oh, my bullying stops people from getting hurt. I understand that, you know, makes you feel like a bit of a superhero, but at the end of the day, if a bully is commenting nasty things on Jojo Siwa's profile, they're probably still bullying someone in school. I know, again, it sounds ideal that one would stop the other, but at the end of the day, it doesn't. A lot of school bullies bully multiple people. It's not a justification, but I just feel like Jojo Siwa is almost in this like state of delusion of where she genuinely believes this. I just don't think it's really realistic, especially when you consider the fact that, well, Jojo gets so many comments calling her cringy, calling her weird and stuff like that. You know, a lot of negative comments. I don't necessarily think that any of those comments are really preventing any bullying whatsoever. It's not like a bully goes like, oh, you know, I've done my bullying for the day. You know, Timmy, I'm not going to bully you anymore. Just because, you know, I've just bullied Jojo. You know, I can't do both. It's like, no, they're probably gonna do both. And I feel like this is a perfect representation of just how out of touch Jojo Siwa is. Like, it's such a hilarious thing for her to say, I feel like I'm saving someone's life. Even Josh himself kind of is taken aback, where he's also like, I don't know about that one, Chief.
And so in a weird way, I kind of look at it as if like I'm saving Susie's life. You know what I mean? Like, I know I can fall asleep and wake up the next day, but I don't know if Susie can. Wow. And so if I kind of take, like, I'm down to take the heat off of other people.
When did you figure that out?
Look, I know he doesn't necessarily say what I said he was going to say, but what he's saying here and how he looks, it very much just feels like he's kind of like, is she for real? Like, honestly, if someone said that to me on a podcast, I would also be, you know, I probably wouldn't call them out on it because I'm not too good at confrontation, but I would be thinking, I don't know about that one. But yeah, Jojo is really painting a really good picture of herself on this podcast. She offers helping hands to all the people in the industry, and now she's also saving lives. I mean, this is a real superhero we're dealing with here. This real superhero who also will ignore you if you come out with your allegations about severe mistreatment on your show. But hey, she's stopping bullying. Bullying, you know, stocks, they're down because, I don't know, we commented, Jojo, this song sucks on a TikTok page. It makes no sense whatsoever. But yes, in fairness to Jojo, she does go on to basically state that the fact that she was supposedly saving people from bullying actually really helped her deal with a lot of, you know, terrible times in her life. And look, that's great. But I still just don't believe that she is saving people from being bullied. I know, you know, it sounds great, but I just don't believe it.
When did you figure that out?
That helped me about 2 years ago when I was really going through it. And I was like, fuck the internet, this hurts. But it kind of like, I was like, no, I can handle it. Some people can't.
Again, it's just like this superhero arc that she's on. I can handle this, but other people can't. And I will stand up for the small man. You know, I'll stand up for the world. I'm Jojo Siwa. I'm here to save the day. It's like, Jojo, again, I would love this to be true, but I just don't really think that this is happening. Imagine a bully just like, you know, laying into someone, and then so like, oh wait, no, she's just posted a TikTok. One second. Jojo, your new song, it sucks. Yeah. Well, Timmy, you know, I've been beating you up every day, but I just don't feel like doing it anymore. I just don't feel like doing it. And just like that, Jojo Siwa has saved the day. Give her an MCU film at the end of the day. Give her a movie. She she deserves it. But in terms of other things discussed on this podcast, Jojo actually goes into to discuss the hate surrounding her on social media currently, and she actually does have a pretty interesting perspective that I actually do kind of agree with her on. Because in my opinion, Jojo has become like this new type of hybrid influencer celebrity thing of where she's not exactly loved, but she's also not exactly seen as like an ultimate supervillain. She's not famous for either of those reasons. She's just kind of famous for being cringe. No matter what happens, even if it is a very serious situation, she's just famous and she's kind of just there and people are talking about her no matter what. And it is this new form of celebrity where you kind of play on cringe culture and rage bait, and it does turn you into a celebrity. It's kind of like what the Kardashians were, and it's evolved into this new influencer hybrid celebrity thing. And Jojo goes into speaking about this and how she's actually really good at getting attention and, you know, being a part of this new type of celebrity genre. And you know what? I can't really disagree with her.
Well, how do you manage that? Because to your point, when you are playing with the audience, there's going to be people that are your diehards, there are people that are going to love it, and then that equation only works where there are people who don't love it.
Yeah.
And do you take
It's
any of that
interesting
in?
because right now I definitely have more of those. I have more people who are against than are for. And my thing is, like, look, I was put on this earth. I look at it from a couple different ways. There's a couple different perspectives that help me. And number one, I was put on this earth to entertain. Whether that means people like it or don't like it, they are entertained by it. It is, whether it's a positive or a negative, it is successful. You know what I mean? And I definitely, I like that. Like, a lot of people say they don't like Karma, yet they'll come to a concert with the makeup on. You know what I mean? They know the dance. They can sing the song. And so it's like, thanks, babe. Thanks for not liking it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Now, with what Jojo is speaking about here, I actually think she's absolutely spot on. And when you ignore, like, everything, I feel like she actually does come off, you know, quite understandable and likable here. She clearly is very good at marketing. I'm not going to deny that whatsoever. But at the end of the day, there are so many things that just kind of make me not like Jojo. And I honestly want to like her. I wish that she just was this internet cringe lord that does all of these ridiculous things. But at the end of the day, if I ignore things like this, then I'm not being true to myself. And I truly do care about that industry and want change. So no, I can't ignore it. But I can also understand that, yes, she is good at marketing. And I think that actually does come down to the fact that, well, she is ignoring a lot of the scandals out there about her. Real scandals. Not, oh, Jojo has crazy makeup, but the real issues out there. She just ignores them and posts, you know, consistently. And, you know, everyone forgets about it. Or even in search bars, it just gets, you know, completely nuked because Jojo's done something else. And, you know, the media companies are writing about something else. And you'll never even see that headline and article again because it's just buried under other articles. She's very, very good at burying a story and very, very smart at just getting people to look away from certain things and talk about the things that she wants people to talk about. Her Karma era very much was a representation of that. When that song was coming out, it was also in the midst of this massive scandal and nobody paid attention to it because, oh, Jojo's acting different. Jojo's being quirky, and as we just saw in this clip, she absolutely knows what she's doing, and if anything, she absolutely loves this type of marketing. And realistically, I can't even blame her because she's rich, she's famous, and she has everything that she wants. And even the media see this woman as an absolute genius, amazing, successful businesswoman. But I just can't go with that. I just can't see her as that. I see her as the person that avoids all of these serious child mistreatment issues on her television show. I see her as the individual that has a particular need and urge and want to consistently defend people like Colleen, Ballinger, Ballinger and even share a platform with Colleen Ballinger because yes, as you can see here, she recently went on Colleen Ballinger's show. And we all know Colleen Ballinger. We all know the things that she was exposed for. She is well known as a creep or something even worse in 2025. Yet, Jojo consists on defending her and being on the same platform as her. Take this for example. Jojo Siwa defends Colleen and calls me a liar. Yes, this is something that Jojo Siwa did in the midst of all of the drama and all of the scandal exposing Colleen Ballinger. Jojo Siwa came out and defended Colleen.
The internet can take a lie and run so far with it, so far that it's to the point where you just can't do anything about it.
Yes, word for word, she just called the people speaking up against Colleen a liar. And even after this, despite there being so much criticism at the time, you'd feel that, oh, well, maybe Jojo would have seen that criticism and thought to herself, oh yeah, maybe I should, educate myself, learn about the situation a bit more and what I'm involved in. No, only shortly after that, she was then putting Colleen on her Instagram story stating that she loves and adores Colleen. And I'm not trying to be the friendship police here, but I feel like it is a little bit of an exception when it comes to Colleen Ballinger. Someone that's sent her underwear to an underage fan. She actually did that. So I feel like I have the right to question why you are still sharing your multi-million follow platform with this individual. And I'm just confused why this angel that is loved by the media is so, intent on defending bad people, whether it's Abby Lee Miller or whether it's someone like Colleen Ballinger. Now, in terms of what they actually speak about this podcast, I have listened to the entire thing, and honestly, it's not really that interesting. They speak about, just general chit-chat, really, speaking about some of the recent things going on in the world, but one particular thing that did actually catch my interest was when they start to speak about Elon Musk. And pretty much Jojo goes on to speak about how she recently bought a Cybertruck and I guess was receiving criticism for that, given, everything with that pathetic loser, Elon Musk, everything going on there. Jojo is now receiving criticism for, owning a Cybertruck. And I'm just going to go through what they have to say here because some of the things that they say, they're not exactly the worst thing on planet Earth, but I'm just almost like, you're wrong. You're not right.
Jojo, what are you sweet and what are you salty about this week?
This week, I'm salty that my girlfriend's in Australia, and I'm sweet that I'm moving houses.
I love that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That's nice.
Rachel, what are you sweet and salty about?
Salty about Donald Trump, always.
Oh,
and then I am sweet.
Wait, can I add another one when you're done? When you're done, go, keep going.
Okay, I'm sweet about that Jojo's here.
Aww.
What was your thing? Go.
Salty because
yeah.
Did I just buy a Cybertruck? Uh-huh. Did I buy before everything?
Oh, yeah.
Now I have a Cybertruck? Uh-huh.
Now, when she says before everything, I think it's very obvious what she's referring to there. And yeah, I kind of get that. And now, look, I'm not coming on here to police what people buy. I actually really don't care. But the phrase of it was before everything, which kind of, indicates that people only now dislike Elon. It's like, that's not true. That's not true. Elon Musk has been very much a disliked person, especially amongst left-wing communities for absolutely years now. And I say left-wing communities, and that mainly comes down to the fact that, well, Jojo Siwa obviously has a very left-leaning audience. I'm not saying that they're all politically engaged people, but I imagine, the person part of the LGBTQ plus community who very much is all about big stripes and rainbows has a left-leaning, community. And to state that, oh, you didn't really know about this, or this is before everything. It's like, no, Elon has been a big backer of people like Trump for years years and years now. He's not exactly been a non-controversial figure for a very long time. I mean, I've been speaking about Elon negatively for about at least 5 years at this point, and I think most people have. I'm not breaking any boundaries when I state that, but yeah, I did find this to be a little bit interesting. And then they actually go on to speak about, you know, how they purchased a Tesla way back in the day. But even this is like, again, I'm not policing you on what you can buy, but I just feel like, it's just not really true.
Okay, but my friend has a Tesla and she got a
sticker.
a
I wanna
bumper
get the
sticker that says
sticker.
I bought this before everything happened.
I had a fucking bone to pick. I bought my Tesla 3.5 years ago, so way before all this.
Yep.
This was still like when Elon was actually acting like a good person, and so everyone was like, "Oh, it's so cool."
Again, I don't think this is true. Like, that was 2021, and even then, I think there was a lot of controversy surrounding Elon. I feel like when things kind of start to turn, because I don't deny there was a point where everyone did, you know, love Elon Musk, but I think it came after he said this about a cave diver. People started to think, well, this guy is actually a bit weird. And yeah, to say that everyone loved him, again, it's not exactly the worst thing on planet Earth to say, but it's just not true.
He was like sending something to go rescue those kids in the cave. Remember when those?
Yeah. He did send us stuff.
He sent a thing, and so like he had good PR around him at the time, and also it wasn't political at all. I bought a Tesla.
Yeah, it wasn't. There wasn't like a.
Again, this is what I mean by this wasn't true. Now, what she's referring to here actually comes back to what I was speaking about just now, the caves, of where Elon apparently sent in a Tesla small submarine to try and help with the rescue effort, which, you know, is a pretty great thing to do, but they didn't use the rescue ship that they offered. And also, Elon seemingly got very angry that the fact that somebody else managed to save the individual, and yes, he ended up calling this person this, and yeah, there was definitely not good PR surrounding him at the time. And again, I'm not criticizing you if you own a Tesla, they're very good cars, again, but I'm just saying, you know, cherry picking, I admit, but it's not exactly true what they're talking about here. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think this is really the biggest thing on planet Earth. I think the main issue I have is, well, you know, you're on a platform with Colleen Ballinger in 2025. I think that's a particularly interesting thing to do, but as we've seen, Jojo Siwa is not hiding from her friendship with Colleen. She's defended her on multiple occasions. She's called her an amazing person on multiple occasions, and now she's still featuring on a shared platform. It's like, this person isn't exactly this amazing individual that the media love to present her to be, in my opinion. And this is what I don't understand. When you're defending actual people that have committed horrible actions, when you're avoiding the scrutiny and controversy surrounding your own television show, when you're mocking former child stars for just speaking up, when do you become the person that isn't exactly a great individual? We always hear about cancel culture, but I feel like people like Jojo Siwa are a perfect representation. Well, if not even Colleen Ballinger are a perfect representation that cancel culture 99.9% of the time absolutely does not exist. Colleen Ballinger is still in 2025 sharing a platform with one of the biggest influencer celebrities in the space. Where is cancel culture if that is happening after everything that went down with Colleen Ballinger? In my opinion, this is a fine representation that cancel culture, at least now, really isn't a thing. And if you just keep on posting through controversy, yeah, people will be mad, but at the end of the day, if you keep on going and going, people will just move on and forget. And I think with Jojo and Colleen, this is just another example of that. There are plenty of other things that I could speak about involving Jojo recently. There have been so many wacky and quirky things that she's done. Her music is failing and all that insane, incredible stuff. But at the end of the day, in this video in particular, I mainly do just want to reflect on this massive situation from a year ago and how realistically nothing has changed. The industry is only getting worse, and with people like Jojo Siwa constantly normalizing such terrible behavior and even defending terrible behavior, I just think that things are only going to get worse. And with that, I do now want to actually go through the entire article for a final time, because I feel like some of you probably, haven't actually read the whole thing. And maybe some of you have and you kind of want to just click off now. I get it. But with what's said in this article, I think a lot of us have just forgotten the sheer severe nature surrounding everything. So with that, I just want to go through it and give, again, another raw rendition of it and give my opinion as I go through it. Jojo Siwa promised them pop stardom. They say they were thrown in the trash. With my manager, Jocelyn Siwa, the star put together a new girl group, XOMG Pop. But after 4 members left, fans had questions about what really happened. And yeah, let's get into everything. Leah Sanderson always wanted to dance, but it was never going to be easy for her. Sanderson, 16, was born with spina bifida, a congenital birth defect in which the spinal cord fails to form properly. She spent her early years in and out of hospital, undergoing dozens of surgeries. She still regularly struggles with pain and bladder infections, and since she was 5, has had to use a catheter to go to the bathroom. The school nurse was my best friend growing up, she says. So yes, take into context that this is an individual that has had to deal with a lot of issues growing up. Around 2013, when Sanderson was 6 or 7, she started to take classes at the dance studio Beyond Belief, owned by Justin Johnson, perhaps best known as drag race queen Alyssa Edwards on RuPaul's Drag Race. Sanderson became a star, dominating the competitive dance circuit despite her medical condition, appearing on Johnson's Netflix show Dancing Queen, and competing with Beyond Talent in a 2021 episode of America's Got Talent. In 2021, when Sanderson was 14, Johnson took her aside and told her that he had submitted her to audition for the upcoming reality TV show Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution, hosted by the powerhouse pop star, dancer, and Gen Z icon, Jojo Siwa. As the culmination of the reality show, Siwa and her mother, Jesselyn, were putting together a pop group. They were basically forming the young teen Gen Z dancing group version of the Avengers. The band XOMG Pop would be positioned as the next big girl group bound for the charts, a viable competitor to bands like Kids Bop. Sanderson was thrilled. She was a huge fan of JoJo, having watched her breakthrough turn on the TV franchise Abby's Ultimate Dance Competition, and then Dance Mums, where JoJo quickly became a fan favourite with her spunky Midwestern personality and her omnipresent bows. JoJo parlayed her fame from the show into a career as an actor, influencer, and pop star, signing with Nickelodeon, embarking on a global tour, and rolling out her own merchandise, including JoJo-branded books, dolls, accessories, and clothing. Her candy-colored aesthetic, combined with her cheery, frenetic persona, earned her a devoted following among young girls, in particular, who referred to themselves as the Siwanators. Now, it does go on to explain more about the little details to do with Jojo Siwa's upbringing and also how she became a star, and yeah, there's things that we don't really need to read here, but you've kind of got the base understanding of who Leah Sanderson was. Pretty much, she idolized JoJo. She wanted to be Jojo Siwa, and the show could possibly, send her into that stratosphere of being just like JoJo, just as famous, and possibly just as rich. Because that's what these shows do. They pretty much just give you the idea of, oh, you can just be like Jojo Siwa. This can be your version of Dance Mums. It basically gives you this idea of, if you do all these insane, wacky things, work these insane working hours, you could, and not you will, but you could be famous. And that's the catch. It's never will, it's could. And even if you don't, well, at least the television executives got their, hours of exploiting you on camera, making you cry, and it can now go onto their little streaming service. It goes on to state that Sanderson's mother, Angie Sanderson, had some reservations. Because Leah was a minor, Angie would have to leave her 3 other kids behind in Texas to accompany Leah to Los Angeles. She'd also have to shut down the daycare center she owned, but she and her husband Cody talked it over and decided it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. A person with spina bifida shouldn't be able to do the things that she's doing, Cody says. We never know from day to day if this may be her last time to step on stage, so we have to take every opportunity we can. And yeah, this is, the sad reality of this story. As much as I do think a lot of the families involved in these Dance Mum shows where they're pushing their kids to do these things are incredibly exploitative, At the end of the day, this is a bit of an irregular circumstance, you know. What Leah was dealing with was a very unique thing that not everyone on these shows is dealing with, and it's not really an opportunity that Leah was going to get in any other situation. So yeah, I can understand why they, you know, allowed Leah to go through with this. In early spring of 2021, Angie and Leah flew to LA to appear in a series. The 2 years that followed, according to the Sandersons, were the exact opposite of what Leah had dreamt about as a little girl. The Sandersons, as well as multiple sources close to the production, allege that the Siwas subjected the children to grueling rehearsals, sometimes foregoing school breaks with meager compensation. They also allege Sanderson was forced to work under intense physical duress, with Jesselyn encouraging her to attend a video shoot just a few weeks after she underwent spinal cord surgery. In one instance, just days before the surgery, they alleged that Leah started bleeding through her belly button during a rehearsal for a performance at the Children and Family Emmys, which was hosted by Jojo. Rather than encourage her to take a break, the Sandersons say that Jesselyn told her to put a maxi pad on it so it wouldn't leak onto her costume. Bearing in mind, this is a young girl that we're speaking about here. That is absolutely incredibly messed up. But again, is this the it factor that Jojo was speaking about earlier? If she didn't want to put a maxi pad on it and she actually wanted to, you know, rest and recover, is that no longer the it factor that Jojo was speaking about on Josh Peck's podcast? Because to me, that's what I'm getting here. That's the impression that I'm getting. For the first time, Angie and Leah Sanderson are speaking out, talking exclusively to Rolling Stone about their almost 2-year stint in XOMG Pop. They allege that Jesselyn was overtly cruel to their young charges, calling them names and in one instance, shaming them for having a disability. The contestant who was the target of the alleged verbal abuse did not return Rolling Stone's request for comments. Jojo, meanwhile, could also be nasty and domineering, according to sources. And again, this is just something that plays into what we saw in that podcast of where if someone doesn't have the it factor, they're just like, you've got to go. You've got to go and become, I don't know, a regular human being that isn't rich and successful, I guess. Jojo could also be nasty and domineering, according to sources, a sharp contrast from her upbeat on-screen persona. At one point, they alleged she screamed insults at the girls during a performance. They also alleged that she played a role in helping to build a cutthroat environment long after the cameras were gone, playing favorites and pitting members against each other. Bearing in mind, these are children that we're speaking about. In addition to the Sandersons, Rolling Stone spoke with multiple sources close to production of Dance Pop Revolution and the Siwas. We also reviewed more than 24 documents related to XOMG Pop and Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution, including contractual agreements, text messages, and emails. The sources alleged that the Siwas and the producers dangled the carrot of stardom in front of the young XOMG Pop members, only to berate them and encourage them to cry on camera. The mom and kids would come home and have a candy basket and a Nintendo Switch in their hotel room after being messed with all day. A source close to production told Rolling Stone the highs were high and the lows were low. A representative for the production company behind Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution disputes this, saying that the children were not given any gifts, nor were they encouraged to cry. But let's be real here, children crying is what all of these shows are about. They don't care about if these kids are gonna, make it in the world and be successful, famous dance stars. They just want the kids to cry on camera. And that's evidence based on the fact that the show that Jojo got famous from, to this day, is still profiteering off children crying. I have no doubt in my mind that what the article is stating here is absolutely the real, true situation. When Angie raised concerns about XOMG Pop with the other mothers and a studio teacher, the Sandersons said that they told Jesselyn and Leah was abruptly fired from the group. Leah and I were in a dark place for months and months that I don't think we were healthy enough to speak about. Angie says, now that we've had time to recover and heal from it, we're in a place where we are ready to share and tell people about everything. And again, that summarizes the environment of these types of reality television shows. If you air any grievances or issues that you have, you will be fired. Because how dare you speak up against Jesselyn and Jojo Siwa? In response to a list of detailed questions, the Siwas deny the allegations via their cancel entertainment attorney, Brian Friedman, saying the abuse came from Angie. These allegations are 100% provably false. then prove them, provide some information. This is what I don't get here. If these people can actually prove these things, then why don't you? Again, it comes down to the whole thing of actions speak louder than words. Show us the evidence. You've had a year to do so, but in every single instance, you have avoided this. Freeman referred to Leah Sanderson's termination as Jojo Siwa protecting the staff, the other girls, and their families, which she will continue to do unapologetically. They did not respond to allegations unrelated to the Sandersons or questions regarding why so many former members of the group had left. And yeah, again, this isn't just a Leah Sanderson issue. There have been multiple individuals that have left XOMG Pop, and for Jojo Siwa to state that, oh, I'm protecting everybody is hilarious, because once again, she's just doing this thing that we keep on seeing her do, of where she kind of positions herself as this superhero that's gonna save the day. But, you know, if you have actual any issues, please go away. Because yeah, when things are easy and, you know, Jojo's making millions and people are crying on camera, well, I'll protect you then. But if you say anything out of pocket against me, then I don't want anything to do with you. And look, honestly, it is really sad. It really is. I feel like Jojo could have been a spark for change in this industry. And even if this thing still happened, I feel like this could have been turned into a positive thing of where maybe Jojo was just like, you know what, I'll put my hands up. I've done wrong here, but we're going to rectify the situation. We're going to, you know, lead for some change in this industry so these things never happen again. But no, it's just Angie was lying and everyone else is in the wrong other than me. In every case, this is what she does, and in every case, she never actually proves this. Through treacly pop songs like Party Like a Pop Star, Candy Hearts, and Disco Believer, XOMG Pop developed a loyal fan base of tweens and young teens, garnering more than 15 million followers across social media and 50 million views on TikTok. In November 2023, they released a Christmas EP with Meghan Trainor, giving the group more mainstream industry cash. Like Siwa, XOMG Pop had also benefited from an enormous marketing rollout targeted at the tween market, including XOMG Pop clothing, accessories, and bedding sold on Amazon and at Target. The 7 members, all of whom were between the ages of 8 and 14, and then it lists every member, were posted as heirs apparent to Jojo Siwa's candy-colored multi-million-dollar empire, touring malls, appearing on America's Got Talent, and even marketing their own cruise. And again, this is what they do. They want you to believe that you could possibly be the new Jojo Siwa, when we all know now that that absolutely was a complete facade just to sell this merchandise and just to get you to, you know, watch these shows, and also to get, you know, young teens to want to appear in these shows. Yeah, the band has attracted online scrutiny. 4 of the original winners of the competition left under obscure circumstances over the past year and a half, with little, if any, comment from the Siwas. The mothers of the other girls who left declined to comment to the Rolling Stone. Angie says that she was the only one who didn't sign a non-disclosure agreement. In response to Rolling Stone's request for comment, each of the mothers of the current members of XOMG Pop sent statements to Rolling Stone via a representative for the Siwas, attesting to their positive experiences with the group. And yeah, honestly, this doesn't really shock me given what we've seen so far. If you negatively speak about the show, then obviously you're going to be kicked off and lose that opportunity for your child. At the end of the day, it is a pretty smart technique that in the long run is going to protect you, because yeah, you can't criticize us, because if you do, well, you're gonna lose everything. But yeah, it goes through that, and basically it's just people stating how much they love Jojo Siwa, and yeah, they could never do anything wrong, and their daughter loves being a part of XOMG Pop, and yeah, I mean, we know why they're doing this. The allegations against the Siwas highlight growing concerns within the entertainment industry regarding the lack of protection extended to minors in Hollywood, particularly within the social media space, which is subject to very little oversight or regulation. In light of such concerns, numerous states, including California, are considering passing legislation that would require adult guardians to set aside a percentage of minors' social media revenue to put in a trust. Though such legislation, widely known as the Coogan Law, named after 1920s child star actor Jackie Coogan, exists for minors in the traditional entertainment industry, the law has not kept pace contributes to the growth of social media, making kids and families vulnerable to financial exploitation, says Ed Howard. And yeah, this is what I meant when I spoke about how Jojo could have done a lot of good with this situation. She could have taken it and, actually pushed for change in the industry where underage child stars are actually protected by laws and regulation. She could have seen the situation as a learning lesson and actually thought, you know what, I'm going to push for change. But no, she absolutely did not do that. And the reason that I think she didn't do that is because, well, she profiteers from this industry. She makes money from this industry. If these rules and regulations came in, then, well, it would stop her from making even more money because, having so many millions at the bank it's not enough. Jojo Siwa needs more and more and more. So obviously, she's not going to push for any, regulation change whatsoever. And it states because of their work, such as brand deals or social media content for social media, did not fall into the category under these types of laws, the Sandersons allege that Siwa's failed to compensate Leah for such labor or provide her with the standard onset protections afforded to minor talent, highlighting the absence of a safety net for children looking to archive wealth and fame on the internet in the 2020s. Angie say her and Leah's story is an abomination for parents of children working in Hollywood to not get starstruck. Do your research, she says. Don't assume that you know someone because of their public persona. To Jessalyn Siwa, she says, you're a mum, and the way that you hurt these kids is not okay. And honestly, with that, my advice would also extend to a lot of YouTubers. If you have someone coming to you and offering you this amazing contract for this network or brand deal, maybe just take a look at the contract a little bit deeper. Maybe just realize that these individuals that are putting financial incentives in front of your face aren't your friend, and they are ultimately trying to profiteer from you. Siwa's Dance Pop Revolution debuted on Peacock in November 2021, with promos for the show advertising it as the successor to Dance Mums. Jojo was to act as a choreographer as well as the co-manager of the group, along with her mother, Jessalyn. On the show, the two are presented as a firm yet generous benefactors, with the Siwa introducing themselves to their young progeny atop the staircase of a lavish marble-floored mansion festooned with rainbows, gumball machines, and a life-size unicorn. You think you're going to be able to handle my mum? I thought the same when I was 9, and look where I am now. So I guess it may have worked, Jojo says in the opening moments of the first episode. Standing next to her mum, Jessalyn promises to make the group a phenomenon as the girls shriek and cheer. And again, yes, it's the promise of fame and fortune. It's the promise of being the successor to Jojo Siwa. And I mean, any teenager is going to want that. Any child is going to want that, because at the end of the day, a lot of kids see this and think it's amazing, but then obviously when you get involved in it, it can lead to terrible things like this. But there were tensions within the cast and between the Siwas and some of the cast members almost immediately. Some of this, two sources close to the production say, was due to the inherent premise of the show, which involved children being pitted against each other in a competitive setting. Two of the contestants were frequently compared to each other by Jessalyn because they both had blonde hair, prompting one of them to dye their hair mid-season. Two sources close to production allege that in a deleted elimination sequence, the girls who were cut from the show will be asked by producers to look into the mirror, watching themselves become visibly upset during their exit interviews. A representative for the production company denies they were ever asked to sit in front of a mirror as part of the exit interview. According to one of the sources close to the production, an adage among some of the producers on set was, "It's not a good day unless you make a kid cry." Angie Sanderson confirmed that she heard such a comment from a producer as well. Another source who spoke to Rolling Stone said that they had not heard this specifically, but such a remark was consistent with the atmosphere on set. When asked whether any producers had made such a comment, a representative for the production company said, "Not to my knowledge." Adding such a remark is counter to everything Jojo Siwa stands for. Which again, as we've seen in this video, is absolutely not true. Jojo Siwa has said that it's just tough love with the things that went on Dance Mums. The crying, the emotional breakdowns that are on camera, that are to this day exploited for YouTube and social media views. If it wasn't what Jojo Siwa represents, then how did she get famous? Why is she still doing it in this show and advertising this show as a Dance Mums sequel? This to me doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Dance Mums represents everything wrong with the child entertainment industry in Hollywood, and this show is being lapped up as this amazing sequel to it. Producers encourage drama and tension between castmates, according to those who spoke with the Rolling Stone. Though manipulating reality show contestants for the sake of maximizing drama is fairly standard reality television procedure, the stakes were heightened by the fact that the contestants in question were children, including one who was 8 years old at the time. Angie alleges that the show was edited to make her look ruthless, and that in one scene in particular, in which Leah performs a song with a ukulele to cover favor with the Siwas, was in fact staged by producers and edited to make her look like Leah was taking advantage of a rival contestant's illness. I mean, it's just so weird, and I really don't understand why anyone enjoys these shows, especially in 2025 with us knowing how exploitative these shows are. I just don't really get the appeal to any of them. I get that they were popular in the mid-2000s because I guess they were this new quirky thing, but now we know what these shows truly are. I really don't get why anyone would want to watch them. Jesselyn was also verbally abusive during rehearsals. The Sandersons and two close sources to production allege, with Jesselyn berating a contestant with hypotonia, a disorder that causes low muscle tone, by mocking her for being able to move her arms and legs. She also allegedly made fun of her speech, at one point mimicking her. Neither of the alleged scenes made it to air, and the contestant in question did not respond to a request for comments. The Siwas did not respond to a question about the alleged incidents. Why would they not respond if these things weren't true? If somebody said this about me or you, well, I don't know why I just pointed at me to you or me, if anyone said that, we would deny these things. If you truly did not believe these things to be true, you would deny these things just like you've denied things in the past. But with this, they're interestingly enough ignoring it, which is quite convenient. It goes on to state that things got significantly worse once production for the show ended in summer of 2021, and the winners, including Leah, transitioned to being a full-time music act, according to multiple sources. The Sandersons allege, and another source close to the situation confirms, they largely had to pay out of pocket for food and transportation, often without being reimbursed, and were not paid for individual music, video, photo, or social media content shoots. California child law dictates that minors are entitled to a minimum hourly wage for every hour that they are on set. But according to Eugene Lee, an attorney who specializes in labor law in the state of California, child labor laws as they stand do not entitle children to compensation for, say, shooting social media content. And Lee says he is not aware of any case law pertaining to such compensation. The ambiguity surrounding these laws protecting minors, he said, combined with Leah's non-employee status as evidenced by a 1099 tax form provided to Rolling Stone, would make the case difficult yet worthwhile in his estimation. I'd take that case, he said. So what's being said here pretty much is the Siwas were very, very happy and confident in profiteering off these children, but when it came to actually compensating them and paying them, well, they seemingly weren't too keen on doing that. According to Angie and a copy of the recorded contract provided to Rolling Stone, the girls were promised $10,000 upon recording their first album, yet the Sandersons only received a little more than $4,000 because Jess said that she had to pay for the Airbnb that they would stay in. Which again is absolutely insane. This is a multi-millionaire. I've had YouTubers pay for my accommodation and say, you know what, don't worry about it, you're coming out here, you're working with us, we'll pay for it. I've had YouTubers do that who aren't millionaires. So why can multi-millionaires Jesselyn and Jojo Siwa not just pay for someone's Airbnb? These individuals are profiteering off these children, yet they are not willing in any circumstance to help them out whatsoever. It's utterly disgusting, and I know this article is a year old, but just looking back on it and going through it really does shock you. Angie goes on to state that her financial situation with her family got so bad that she had to shut down her daycare center in order to live with Leah in California, yet she lived in fear that if she ever said anything, she would endanger Leah's position in the group or would be sued for breach of contract, something that she and two sources close to the production of Dance Pop Revolution allege the mothers were threatened with on multiple occasions. You have to understand the atmosphere, Sanderson says. You're not allowed to say anything. You can't question anything. You're living in fear that you're going to cost your child their opportunity, that they'll get fired or we're going to have to get a lawyer, and none of us had that money. The mothers were so short on funds, Angie alleges, that at one point she and Bella's mother started working directly for Jesselyn herself, organizing Jojo's closet and scrubbing toilets in her home for $20 an hour, according to PayPal receipts and a schedule provided to Rolling Stone. And to me personally, this is all a power thing. You know, none of these people can say anything, because if they do, they will lose everything. And I very much just see that as a Hollywood thing, and it very much shows us that Jesselyn and Jojo are now part of that Hollywood machine where they are pretty much willing to put people in terrible financial positions if it means that they have control over them, and if it means that these individuals will never say anything bad about them. It goes on to state that rehearsals would last for hours, leaving little time for school, and as Sandersons and a source close to the group allege, according to a calendar shared with Rolling Stone, shoots for music videos like Disco Believer could extend for 9 hours, with rehearsal calls sometimes being sent to the girls well after midnight the night before. We would end up working a 9-hour day with no school, says Leah. Every single day it put us so far behind, and the source close to the situation confirmed that such a schedule was not unusual. According to California labor law, 9 hours is the maximum amount of time a 9 to 16-year-old in the entertainment industry is allowed to spend on work. And as the month stretched on, Leah would only sporadically do schoolwork. She alleges only logging 6.6 hours of class time for the entire calendar month of December 2022. So effectively, these kids aren't being compensated, and their school life is also being decimated. There's absolutely, seemingly at this point, no benefits to being on this show other than the hope and promise that maybe, just maybe, you will be the new Jojo Siwa. And that's why they promise all these amazing things at the beginning of the show, because you're going to go through all of this turmoil, but in the back of your mind, it's going to be Jojo and Jesselyn telling you, don't worry, you're gonna maybe possibly be famous and rich at the end of it. Which we now know, seemingly none of the people from XOMG Pop did become as rich and famous as Jojo Siwa. After the show ended, the Sandersons and other sources close to the group allege that the competitive aspect of XOMG Pop did not end, as the members were required to put in endless hours making Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube content. There was no direct compensation for that labor, but according to the Sandersons and two sources close to the situation, the girls were promised a $500 prize if their TikTok got the most views that week. $500. These are multi-millionaires, by the way. And look, yeah, TikToks obviously aren't going to make loads of money, but given the amount of work that they are doing, I feel like these kids are entitled to a little bit more than whatever they're being paid for these TikToks. They go on to state that everyone was being pitted against each other at the time, and just in general, the atmosphere seems to be terrible. During rehearsals for the group, Leah alleges that Jojo would encourage the girls to compare themselves to each other, breeding an atmosphere of constant contention and presenting a stark contrast to her sunny public persona. We're supposed to be a group and supposed to be unified, says Leah. It was like the show all over again during one performance at the Mall of America in Minnesota. She alleges Jojo was shouting at them in headsets, screaming, "You're sucking. Bring it up. The energy is low. You look sloppy. This isn't good enough. We have thousands of people watching this, and then we have someone in our ears screaming at us, telling us that we suck." And yeah, that sounds terrible, but it doesn't even end there. In late 2022, Leah experienced a slew of health problems connected to her disability, including blood leaking out of her belly button. That December, she flew home to Texas to undergo surgery on her spine. The Siwas and the other XOMG Pop members were supportive, sending Angie and Leah flowers and a get well card, but even though the doctors typically instruct children to avoid physical activity to 4 to 6 weeks after surgery, Leah was told by Jesselyn to head back to rehearsal 3.5 weeks later, the Sandersons allege, in order to practice for the Disco Believer video shoots. Which again is just absolutely insane behavior. These are actual children, and even when they're dealing with serious surgery, it's not good enough for the Siwas, because a week's delay could cost them millions. I mean, could it? Realistically, does anyone actually care if that music video was delayed? I know I wouldn't be caring, but either way, what's written here is just absolutely despicable, but it only continues. During this time, Angie says she started to develop significant reservations about staying in the pop group. Her family was financially underwater, and she started to feel that her daughter's health was being put at risk. Plus, she had started frequently butting heads with Jesselyn and some of the other mothers, to the degree that she was actually at one point put on probation. Yes, she was on probation for simply airing her thoughts and feelings about the fact that she cares for her daughter. Which, I mean, I've said it's insane millions of times now, but it is insane. Now, the rest of the article goes on to speak about how Leah ended up leaving the group, and just in general how she was fired from the group for pretty much just speaking up against the Siwas. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel like this article still doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. I feel like there is so much important information here, so much information that can truly start a conversation about how terrible the child entertainment industry is. And it shocks me that this had no impact on JoJo whatsoever. When you ask someone what they think when it comes to JoJo, that you hear them say, oh, she's cringe, she's weird, she has the funny makeup, but you never hear them speak about this article. And I just really don't understand why. I feel like some of the things documented here are so terrible. I really don't feel that any other influencer would get away with this. And now I don't know if it comes down to the fact that JoJo, who admits she is very good at marketing, has pretty much marketed her way out of this controversy by doing so much, wacky and goofy things. But at the end of the day, surely it gets to a point of where something is so bad that I'm not saying she needs to lose everything, but you have to at least address it. But no, to this day, a year on, reflecting on everything, JoJo, other than her lawyers, have not addressed this situation, which is just absolutely wild to me. If I did this, if any other influencer did this, I feel like we would be expected to make a statement, a YouTube video speaking about the horrible mistreatment of these actual children. But no, we never got that, and honestly, I feel like we never will. To kind of conclude this saga, I realistically don't think that there is ever going to be a happy ending. And with where Hollywood is going, in the modern day, I feel like these kids are only going to continuously and progressively get more and more exploited in the name of profits, which is generally just incredibly sad. I wish I could come on here and say, oh yeah, things are going to change, but no, Jojo Siwa is not going to lead for change in the industry whatsoever, given the fact that she has defended so many terrible people, given the fact she continues to associate with Colleen Ballinger and people like Abby Lee Miller, and even try to make her own sequel to Dance Moms. Nothing is changing, there is no accountability, and in general it just kind of feels that JoJo is just getting worse and worse. And a year on from this saga, pretty much to conclude it, nothing has changed, there is no hope, and it's all terrible. I know that's a really sad way to bring this to an ending, but honestly, I'd rather do that than, lie and pretend that things are all good. They're not, and this industry needs change, but I doubt there will be any in the coming future. But with that, I would love to know your thoughts down below. Please, just in general, let me know what you think. Am I overdoing it? Personally, I don't think I am. I know I have spoken about this situation quite a lot, but I feel like if I don't, it'll just get forgotten and people will just continue to be terrible in the child entertainment industry. So yeah, that's why I will and am and will continue to speak about this in the future. Thank you so much for coming along. I didn't intend for this video to be this long, but here we are. Please follow my podcast, Over the Pond. It's in the description, where we speak about all the things that I speak about on this channel and other stuff. And with that is the end of the video. Please like it, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I'm really tired, honestly. I did not expect this video to go on for this long. I've been ill recently, so coming back with like an hour and a half, 2-hour video, I'm tired, and I'm going to go to bed. Bye-bye, everyone. Peace out. Have a great week.